The silent screams of Valakar 7. The sky over Valakar 7 burned violet as the first hive ships descended. Ambassador Lilan stood on the observation deck of the capital spire, her dark, glassy eyes wide with horror. The Rendax Swarm didn't just invade, they consumed. Entire cities vanished beneath bioorganic tendrils. Communication towers were overtaken by pulsing flesh. Screams flooded the emergency channels, then cut off in unison. The Confederacy defense fleet had tried. 5 cruisers launched kinetic salvos at the descending hive cores. Only one survived long enough to report what happened. The swarm had adapted mid-engagement. The second wave of tendrils carried shielding the exact frequency of the initial blast. The third grew hardened armor. The fourth carried spores that infected the fleet's command AI. 12 worlds had fallen in 8 cycles. Valakar 7, the jewel of the outer colonies, would be next. Lilan turned to the holographic council projected in her chamber. Fuzzy transmissions, generals, scientists, panicked diplomats. Most were arguing. Some were crying. "We must evacuate." Admiral Furious shouted. "To where?" Snap High Scientist Ilra. "Every port is infected or under threat. We are trapped." Lilan spoke quietly, cutting through the chaos. "There's one option left." They paused. "The dark sector," she continued. "The ancient human zone. Perseus Arm Fringe. It's off limits now. But before they vanished, the Terrans fought things worse than this. Maybe they survived." Gasps. Disbelief. "You're suggesting we ask the Deathworlders for help?" one counselor said with disgust. "No," Lilan replied, her tone flat. "I'm suggesting we beg." The room fell into tense silence. Within hours, the broadcast began. Omniband, quantum pulse, gravitational echoes. A signal of pure desperation sent outward in all known galactic dialects. To any sentient capable of interstellar reach. We are the Valakar Confederacy. We are dying. The Rendax Swarm has breached our homeworld. If any species still holds weapons to stand against them, please, help us, help us, help us. The message repeated every cycle. Days passed, then a week. No response. The orbitals went dark as Rendax spores devoured the satellites. The oceans bubbled with bioacidic rain. The great skyport fell. Its upper deck snapped like paper. Still, no one came. Until one day, the signal echoed back. Garbled at first, corrupted as if something ancient was awakening. Then came clarity. A voice, cold and synthetic, followed by coordinates. 2 words. Acknowledged. Incoming. 3 days later, the stars blinked and stayed gone. Something massive dropped from fold space into high orbit. Not one ship, not a fleet. 3 planetary-class warhawks. Matte black, silent, and angular, so dark they seemed to drink light. The hulls bore no known insignia, no registration. Just a single glyph etched into each prow, a red, split circle over a downward triangle. Panic erupted in the command center. Who are they? They are not Swarm. They are not any known race. The design, it's ancient. Those are Terran signatures. But they are wrong. Augmented. A single transmission reached Valakar Command. Planetfall in 10 standard minutes. Plea impact zone. Do not interfere. No greeting. No explanation. Just an order. 10 minutes later, fire rained from the sky. But it wasn't the Swarm. It was drop pods, black cylinders that slammed into the surface with enough force to create a ferrocrete. They opened in perfect sync, steam hissing, and outstepped the Deathworlders. 8 feet tall, exo-armored, faceless. Each carried weapons no Valakari recognized. Some vibrated the air itself. Others crackled with arcs of silent blue lightning. They said nothing. They moved with purpose. Behind them, automated drones constructed barricades and scanning towers in minutes. Anti-air batteries unfolded like mechanical flowers. Sensors tuned to frequencies no Valakari had ever measured pulsed across the ruined plains. Within the hour, the first Rendax tendril rose from the forest. It didn't reach the Deathworlders. They disintegrated at mid-air with a beam that left no smoke, no ash. Just vacuum. From her spire, Lilan watched the dark figures carve a front line across what had been her city. "We called for angels," she whispered. And the shadows answered. "Not angels. Not monsters. Deathworlders. The arrival. Cold shadows and steel." The Deathworlders didn't speak. They didn't announce their presence to the panicked world below, offer reassurances, or even acknowledge the Valakari Defense Command. They simply acted, and the world obeyed. Ambassador Lilan watched through the reinforced viewport as the humans expanded their perimeter. The wreckage of the Eastern District had been fortified with plasma netting and kinetic shields. Huge, boxy turrets, dragged down by drones from orbit, sprouted like black weeds on rooftops. One of her aides approached hesitantly. "They're constructing something underground. Digging tunnels. With fusion drills. Military staging ground," Lilan said softly. "Or worse. They're not here for diplomacy." Valakar's Joint Command Council demanded contact. Lilan, chosen as the Confederacy's representative, was escorted by 2 guards to the human perimeter. At the outer wall, a sleek drone blocked their path. It scanned them with red laser points and silently retreated. A narrow corridor of glowing blue lights appeared between the defenses. They followed it inside. The air changed. Thicker, heavy with ozone and electrical discharge. Every surface hummed faintly. She could feel it in her bones. In the center of the compound stood a human. A man, tall, gray-haired, with cybernetic implants along his temples and a synthetic eye that clicked as it adjusted. He wore no armor, just a dark, high-collared uniform with red stripes down the sleeves. A symbol on his chest, the same split circle and triangle. He didn't rise when Lilan approached. He simply looked at her, calm, assessing. "You're the envoy?" he asked. She nodded. "Ambassador Lilan, of the Valakar Confederacy, on behalf of our people." "You're already speaking too much," he cut in. "We're not here to negotiate. We're here to end the infestation." Her voice caught. "The Rendax." "Yes," he replied. "Your swarm problem. We've seen them before. You've fought them." He stared. His artificial eye clicked again. "We've erased them." He introduced himself only as Captain Reyes, commander of the Night Fist Armada, though he offered no details of rank, origin, or location. When Lilan asked what they wanted in return, he looked at her like she'd asked if water needed to be repaid for flowing downhill. "You called. We came. That's enough." "But why?" she asked. "Why would your kind answer at all?" Reyes stood. He walked to a nearby wall display and tapped it. A 3-dimensional projection unfolded, revealing tactical data, biomorphic models, and swarm growth predictions. "The swarm isn't interested in territory," he said. "They consume knowledge, memory, structure. They grow from pain and pattern. We've tracked them across 13 sectors. You're not the first." He paused. "You won't be the last." Lilan stepped closer to the map. "But why now? No one's heard from your kind in centuries." Reyes looked at her. "Because now," he said, "they've grown bold enough to forget why we left." Later that night, from her tower, Lilan watched the first human counter-assault. Sleek black aircraft with no wings screamed across the horizon. They released pods that struck the forest in silence. No explosions, just a ripple in the ground, and suddenly Rendax tendrils snapped upward, curling in agony. The humans moved in squads of 6, each operative covered in reflective exo-armor with small rotating drones orbiting them like mechanical birds. The moment swarm biomass appeared, the response was swift and surgical. Precise blasts of directed energy, biodisruption charges, acid fog grenades. The swarm adapted. New shapes, faster drones. The humans adapted faster. One Valakari field team recorded footage of a human operative tearing through an entire clutch of Rendax with a plasma blade that pulsed to the wielder's heartbeat. Another clip showed a drone swarm, nicknamed Whisperers, entering a hive node and detonating it from within, releasing only a sharp chime instead of a boom. The Valakari had never seen war like this. No hesitation, no fear, just cold, deliberate force. A message was sent from Valakar's Defense Council to Reyes requesting a joint operation, tactical data, even a shared strategy board. His response was one sentence: "Do not stand between predators and prey." The meaning was clear. The Deathworlders were not allies. They were an unleashed storm. In her private chambers, Lylan replayed the original two-word message they'd received. Acknowledged. Incoming. Now, she understood. It wasn't a rescue. It was a reckoning. Swarmbreaker protocol. The Rendax weren't used to losing. For centuries, they had moved across the spiral arms unchecked, devouring, absorbing, evolving. Every defeat taught them. Every battle improved them. Biological perfection through violence. But now, they were failing. Nest after nest burned. Hive minds disconnected. Queens silenced before they could release adaptive spores. Entire swarm bases turned to vitrified glass by weapons that struck with surgical cruelty. The Deathworlders had no need for overwhelming numbers. They used precision, aggression, and fear as scalpel and fire. It was not war. It was extermination. Sergeant Kale, 2nd Division, call sign Ghost Knife, moved through the thick, humid ruins of Valakar's mid-continent jungles. His squad, 5 humans and 2 autonomous combat frames, had been deployed to locate and dismantle a suspected Rendax submine spawning pool. Thermal readings confirmed it. A mass beneath the forest floor, pumping bioelectric pulses upward like a twisted heartbeat. Kale tapped his helmet once. His visor darkened as the squad dropped thermite charges down into the crater, then backed away. A shrieking pulse echoed from underground, too high for Valakar ears but deep enough to make Kale's implants buzz. The drones didn't wait. "Execute," Kale said. Whomp. The jungle lit orange as the thermite erupted. The ground convulsed. Steam and shriveled biomass launched into the canopy. Seconds later, several Rendax guardians burst from beneath, still ablaze, melting, screeching. Kale walked forward and raised his rail cannon. 1 shot. 2. 3. Clean. He didn't even break stride. Nearby, a Valakari observation team had been watching. Their leader, Commander Cesari, had been given rare permission to monitor Deathworlder operations. What she witnessed stunned her. The humans didn't act like soldiers. They were hunters. There was no formation, no hesitation, no pause. Each move was calculated. Every step built to kill. Even the drones moved with eerie synchronization, like an extension of Kale's body. Cesari stepped from behind her cloaking field, cautiously holding her hands up. Kale's rail cannon rotated toward her in an instant, glowing faintly. "I have permission," she said quickly. "Observer from Confederacy High Council." A pause. Then the cannon powered down. "You're lucky I checked first," he said flatly. "Swarm drones have taken Valakari form before." "For mimicry," she whispered. Kale nodded. "One of the first adaptations we taught them to forget." That night, back at base, Commander Cesari was brought before Captain Reyes. The map table now showed the swarm's remaining strongholds, 6 hive cores marked in red. Human symbols, rough and almost primal, were being etched in blue around each one. "Your forces are dismantling them faster than we can track," she said. "We know," Reyes replied. "This isn't our first cleanse." She hesitated. "Cleanse. Swarmbreaker protocol," he said. "Full genetic collapse. We break their signal web. Force isolated mutation. Then, burn the fragments." "You're not just defending our world," she said slowly. "You're studying them." He nodded. "Every strain of swarm adapts. But evolution leaves fingerprints. This war, it's just dissection on a larger scale." Her eyes narrowed. "You sound like a scientist." Reyes's voice dropped, almost distant. "I used to be one." Elsewhere, deep in the planetary crust, a new hive queen rose. Larger than the rest. A tactical evolution. Wings, vocal mimicry, shield-generating glands. Her neural link pulsed outward, seeking prey, scanning for the strange predators that had broken her sisters. And then, mid-scream, her mind imploded. Far above, in orbit, a Deathworlder AI named Ominos had intercepted the signal, traced its frequency, and detonated a psychic inversion burst directly through the hive core. The queen's brain had boiled before she even realized she was under attack. Ominos spoke once, across no known frequency. Counter-adaptive node neutralized. Suggests Swarm Protocol Variant 11B. Initiate total collapse. The sky rippled, and then came fire. Ambassador Lilan watched it all from a high tower, columns of flame stretching across the horizon, swarm tendrils retreating beneath the soil as if the planet itself rejected them. She wasn't sure whether to celebrate or weep. They had asked for help. What they'd received was vengeance. Kale's squad stood on a ridge at dawn, watching the last of the Rendax retreat toward the northern polar cap. "Should we pursue?" asked one of the combat drones. Kale turned to the horizon. The sun was rising, faint and orange through the ash. "No," he said. "Let them run." He paused. "They'll scream louder when they realize we're already there. No gods, only Deathworlders." The war ended not with surrender, but with silence. No more pulses from the underground hives. No more flickering signatures in the sky. No new swarms crawling up from crevices. The Rendax were gone, burned, shattered, erased. Their once roaring hive minds were now dead zones. Quiet, lightless craters lined with blackened bone resin and scorched stone. Deathwalder forces marked each site with a small triangular beacon. They did not celebrate. They did not linger. They simply moved on. Ambassador Lilan stepped through the blasted ruins of the final hive core, escorted by Sergeant Kale. The air still smelled of plasma and ash, but the sky was clean for the first time in weeks. "We thought no one would come," she said, eyes scanning the scorched terrain. Kale didn't look at her. "We did. You didn't ask for anything." "No. Then why?" Kale finally turned, his visor retracted to reveal tired, scarred features. His eyes were silver from neural overexposure, reflective, like mirrors. "We remember what it's like to scream into the void," he said. That silenced her. In orbit, aboard the Warhulk Vengeance of Autumn, Captain Reyes stood before the Night Fist Council. A darkened room, tactical feeds floating like ghosts in the air, AI constructs shifting quietly around the edges. Omino spoke from the chamber walls, its voice dry and vast. "Swarm extinction verified. Genetic echo disrupted. Rendax strain will not recover within 4,000 years." Another voice, deeper and gruffer. "General Armin, fleet strategist. Orders, Reyes. The Confederacy is requesting a formal alliance. They are offering research contracts, a seat on the Interstellar Council." Reyes didn't flinch. "We decline." Another pause, then agreement. The Deathworlders had come for a reason. They had finished it. Now they would leave. Ambassador Lilan met Reyes one last time at the planetary core gate. Giant transport pods were loading Deathworlder drones, weapons, and data cores. Even the remains of destroyed AI were being atomized and packed away. "You could stay," she said. "Help rebuild. Lead. We need you." Reyes shook his head. "You don't want us, hey?" "That's not true." He raised a brow. "You think this was victory?" "It was survival." He stepped forward, lowering his voice. "This was a demonstration." She blinked. "Of what?" "Of what we do when something threatens the galaxy. We didn't come to save you. We came because your screams woke up something we locked away in ourselves." Lilan hesitated. "Then, what are you?" Reyes looked skyward as the last warship began lifting off. "We're what waits in the dark when the stars go quiet." The Deathworlders left Valakar 7 in silence. No message, no flag, no monument, just a clean world. Safe, for now, and rumors that spread across the stars like wildfire. 3 cycles later, in a distant system near the Bleeding Edge Nebula, an ancient Rendax outpost stirred. Hidden in black space, it had been a fail-safe, deep cryovault filled with dormant bioseeds and a protoqueen. Its systems had not received the death signal. They activated. The queen awakened. She reached outward with her mind to connect to the great swarm. She found only emptiness. A single transmission pierced the darkness. "Your kind failed the trial. There is no colony. There is no mind. There's only correction. The Protoqueen shrieked once, then convulsed. Outside the outpost, a lone ship emerged, black as vacuum, no lights, no windows. Its hull bore only a red triangle. Within moments, the facility ceased to exist. Back on Valakar 7, Lilan stood on a balcony as the wind rushed through the rebuilt city. Children played below. Skies were clear. Life was beginning again. But she knew they hadn't survived because of mercy. They'd survived because something ancient, brutal, and half-forgotten had decided they were worth letting live. There were no gods in the galaxy. There were only Deathworlders.